most people never have enough intention or intensity or velocity in the direction of the things they desire to have to even have a point of no return. And so what we have to do is we have to get started. And then once we get started, we have to move forward with vim and vigor like there's no tomorrow. In this video, I am going to help so many people who have been getting ready to get ready and not gotten started yet. What I'm about to share with you is a master key. It will unlock your stuckness if you will let it, even if you've been stuck for weeks, months, years, or even decades. If you will apply what I'm about to show you, it will change your life for the rest of your life. I'm going to talk to you today about this. Start before you're ready. Because the start stops most people. This is how not to let the start stop you. I talk to people and they're still getting ready 3 years later. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? I'm going to write a book one day. Let one day be today. I'm going to start my business eventually. No, start your business now. And so I was thinking, why does this phenomenon exist? Why is it that people have so much internal resistance to starting? And I was thinking about it when I woke up this morning. My alarm clock went off at 5 o'clock, as it always does. It won't tomorrow, though. I'm sleeping until 7 tomorrow. But it went off at 5 a.m. And I know what I'm supposed to do. Get up. My mind wanted to get up. My body didn't want to get up. Get dressed. Go out on the patio. It's 60 degrees in your shorts and your tank top, and get on that assault bike and let it assault you for 30 minutes. And thinking about it, everything inside of me was saying, but why? And I got up and I got dressed and I went outside and I turned on the patio lights. I got on my assault bike and I put those headphones in my ear and I turned on my playlist for riding the bike, and I rode and panted and huffed and puffed and sweated and all the rest. And guess what? It was way worse thinking about it before I got started than it was experiencing it after I got started. Every time I get in my cold plunge, my body says, you are you're a nut. What are you doing? And I have all of this resistance physically. And then I get in it. And then I listen to this song that's exactly 5 minutes because I stay in there 5 minutes. And when the song's over, I'm like, oh, it's over already? The anxiety over how it's going to be feels so much worse than the actual experience of what? Most anything. I thought to myself, why do we do that? Why do we do that to ourselves? Why do we take things that are so good and have so much potential and then have all this internal resistance and we lock down? Why do we do it? Here's why. Because we have anxiety over past pain. We have anxiety over the future activity based on the memory of a past pain. What does that mean? Well, a couple things. One, people don't realize our body and our mind are very good at remembering pain. In fact, our body and our mind are so good at remembering pain that we will do more to avoid pain most times than we will to gain pleasure. And so when we think about doing the thing, getting something started, the anxiety that builds up inside of us when we're thinking about getting something started, it exists for two reasons. One, we remember the past pain. And two, we're either consciously or unconsciously aware of the fact that disruption always follows intention. So when you start to do something good, the first thing that shows up is something hard. And so we're resisting having to get to our second win. Once we get to our second win, they have a thing called a runner's high, right? And you get to a certain point, you feel like you're going to die. And then once you get past that point, you feel like you're going to live forever, right? But most people, in most of the things that matter in their life, they don't go long enough or far enough or fast enough to break through to that runner's high. I don't know if any of you have ever taken flying lessons, but if you haven't, I promise you, it's so much. You would love it. There's something about flying an airplane. It's just mind blowing. But my flight instructor was sharing with me this concept called the point of no return. That doesn't sound very fun in an airplane, does it? Right, but it is. You're right. So you have a runway. We're going to do the aerial view. Okay, you have a runway, and on the tarmac you have an airplane. Okay, has a propeller on. Okay, so the airplane is going to go down the runway, and it has to get its speed up to a certain speed. And what the speed is going to be determined by how heavy the plane is, right? Let's just say it's 140 miles an hour. It needs to be going 140 miles an hour to take off. You're in a little Cessna 172. You need to be going 140 miles an hour to take off. There's this imaginary place in the runway called the point of no return. You have to be going, once you get past this, if you are going at a speed where you can take off, once you get to this point, it doesn't matter what happens. You're either going to take off or you're going to die. Like you're going to take off or you're going to, not die, but you're going to take off or you're going to crash. Like like once you get here, once the plane gets here, you can't start putting on the brakes. It's too late. So once you get here, you have to take off. Unless you're not going fast enough when you get there. What does that mean? That means you have to have enough velocity, enough speed when you get to the place where you break through in order to break through. Because if you just inch down the runway at 5 miles an hour, this is not the point of no return. It's just another spot on the runway. You say, Myron, what's your point? My point is most people never have enough intention or intensity or velocity in the direction of the things they desire to have to even have a point of no return. And so what we have to do is we have to get started. And then once we get started, we have to move forward with vim and vigor like there's no tomorrow, like there's no turning back. You cannot inch your way up to and through success. It doesn't happen like that. You're either all in or you're all out. Okay? So the reason we resist getting started is because we have these memories of things we attempted in the past. But remember this now. Correlation does not equal causation. You've attempted things in the past, they didn't work. So you assume that when you attempt things, they don't work. But maybe the reason the thing that you attempted in the past didn't work, the real reason is because you had attempted it in a way where the principles you were applying were not stronger than the principles that you were working against. Right? Okay, here's what I mean. So gravity is real. Right? And gravity is a force of nature, and what goes up must come down. But gravity is not so strong that flying is impossible. Are y'all tracking? And so how can a 747, let's just take a 747, fully loaded, fuel, passengers, luggage. It weighs, anybody want to guess? A lot. It weighs 987,000 pounds. A little 757, fully loaded with passengers and fuel, weighs 250,000 pounds. A 757, 250,000 pounds. 250,000 pounds, like 40,000 feet in the air going 500 miles an hour. Everything is wrong with this picture. Well, how can that be? But how can something that heavy be that high and moving that fast? Because there are principles that are greater than the principle of gravity and weight and drag and resistance. What are those principles? Thrust and lift and momentum. So, like, if you realized that if you're applying a principle in getting started in something that's greater than the principle that's stopping you, the thing that's stopping you can't stop you anymore. That's what I say. I say it backwards one time for the people in the back row. Wow. Right. Okay. So we have anxiety over past pain. Now, if you understand, people think they have fear of the future. They have fear of failure, but there's no such thing. There's no such thing as fear of failure. It does not exist. They have anxiety over failure, but they don't fear failure. Anxiety and failure are doppelgangers. They look alike, but they're not the same. They're not even twins. They ain't even in the same family. So, but they create the same physical reaction in our body. Fear is caution over a real and present danger. I remember one time, and I know y'all heard me tell the story before, but I'm going to tell it again for those who haven't heard. This is your first time watching this channel. Congratulations, you get to hear the story for the first time. I was riding my Segway at the golf course, and because it's not a good idea to drive your car and text, I was riding my Segway and looking at Instagram. That makes sense. Wait a minute. What are we doing? Like, what are we doing? Fear of failure. There's no such thing. Why am I riding this? Guess what? Why am I riding this Segway? What's looking at Instagram? This doesn't make sense. I had got a wake-up call. You know what the wake-up call was? I came around the corner from hole number 4, on my way to hole number 5, part 5, the comfort station on the right side. And I looked up from Instagram, and there was a 12 to 15 foot alligator laying across the cart path. My heart started palpitating. If I wouldn't have looked up, I'd have ran in that alligator. Both of us would have had a very bad day. Right? When I looked up and saw that alligator, I did not have anxiety. I had fear. Now, what's the difference between fear and anxiety? The difference between fear and anxiety is fear is caution over a real and present danger. Anxiety is caution over a future imagined danger. If fear is caution over a real and present danger, if there is no real and present danger, there can be no fear. Did you hear what I just said? So failing is not dangerous. Like you perceiving that you're going to fail at something is not dangerous. It's just something that's undesirable. There's a difference between danger and undesirable. So what happens is we think that we have fear of failure. We think we have fear of success. We think we have fear of rejection. None of those things are fear. They're anxiety. Why? Because anxiety is not caution over a real and present danger. Anxiety is caution over a future imagined danger. So when I'm imagining an unfavorable outcome in the future, I'm having a physical reaction in my body in the present. That's what anxiety is. By the way, if I see a 15-foot alligator laying across the cart path and I look up just in time to keep from hitting it, the experience I have in my body is the same experience people have in their body when they're expecting an unfavorable outcome in the future and they have a panic attack. Your head sweats, your heart palpitates, your breathing is shallow, right? Why? Because anxiety seems like, feels like, and creates the same reaction in our body as fear, but it's not fear. Why? Because we made the whole thing up in our mind. We're watching a mental movie. We're watching a mental horror movie about our future in our minds. Your mind is so much more powerful than you know, and if you learn how to empower your mind instead of disempowering your mind, it'll change the game for you. So what's happening? Anxiety over past pain. What does that mean? That means I'm taking pain from the past, projecting it on the screen of my future, and then stepping on my brakes in the present so I don't re-experience that pain. How many of y'all tracking?
Yeah.
That's why. This is one of the reasons why people don't start. But not only anxiety over past pain, but ambiguity over potential pleasure. What does that mean? It means it's easier for us to see clearly the pain of something not working than it is for us to feel the pleasure of it potentially working. Now, why is it so easy for us to imagine negativity and it's so hard for us to imagine positivity? Why is it so easy for us to imagine something not working, so hard for us to imagine it working? Because most of our lives, if we've ever attempted anything, we've had enough things not work to know what that feels like and to remember it very vividly. It's something about something being painful for you, it just kind of amplifies that experience. And so what happens is I'm thinking to myself, well, yeah, I don't want to go through that again. I don't even know I'm thinking that. Like, I'm thinking it on a subconscious level, but my automatic mind is talking me out of taking the action. And so what happens is, because I can see more clearly the thing not working than I can see it clearly working, I don't do it. I get ready to do it, because then at least I can tell people I'm working on it. Then at least I can deceive myself into thinking that I'm working on it. Am I telling the truth? And so this is what I did. I almost forgot that I did this. This is what I did. Back when I was still riding on the back of Southwest Airlines, right? Back on the plane at Southwest Airlines, I would sit down and I would write out what a perfect day in the life of Myron Golden would look like. And I would write it like a movie script. I would describe it. So that I would describe what I was seeing. I would describe what I was feeling. I would describe who I was with. I would describe how that was making me feel. Why? Because I was creating a mental movie in my imagination that I could see clearly enough that it would draw me towards it, like I saw the mental movies of the pain of the past that are moving me away from even being willing to endeavor to do it again. Is this making sense? So can I tell you some? Well, before I do, I'm going to tell you one other thing, and then I'm going to share something with you. Some things. Some reasons why I know personally that starting before you're ready is almost always a good idea. And it's not really starting before you're ready, because you're not really starting before you're ready. You're starting before you think you're ready. But I'm here to tell you, you're ready before you know you're ready. Sometimes we need somebody who knows more than we know, who've been where we'd like to go, to tell us that we're ready, even though we feel like we're not. So, one of the things that you have to do is you have to learn a concept that I call thought replacement. Okay? Because we have to stop watching, conjuring up past memories and imagining that's going to be our future outcome. We have to stop doing that. But you can't just stop doing that. You have to replace it with something. You can't just eject that movie and leave the mental VCR empty. You have to put something in it, right? And so describing what you want it to look like, and then, like, even if you have to close your eyes, I'm not talking about visualization. Maybe I am talking about visualization. I don't know. I'm just talking about, you have to get to the place in your life where you can see more clearly it working than you can not see it not working. And so if anxiety has the ability to stop us in our tracks, and it does. Anticipation. Oh, by the way, look, I used the word anxiety. I didn't define it. I told you what it does, right? I told you that anxiety is caution over a future imagined danger. But let me tell you what anxiety causes us to do. Anxiety causes us to waste present energy on a future outcome that's undesirable to us in the present. Have you ever heard the phrase, worrying about something makes it happen? This is why. Because worrying about something makes it happen, because when I'm worried about it, when I have anxiety over it, I'm wasting the energy I could use to fix it, worrying about it. So even if I get a good idea to fix it, I don't have enough energy left to implement that activity that would fix it. So it's a perpetual trap. That's why Jesus said, don't worry about tomorrow. What is he saying? Stop wasting today's energy worrying about tomorrow's problems. Okay. So here's what we have to here's what we must learn how to discipline ourselves to do in the moment when we're feeling the anxiety. First of all, we got to recognize that it's anxiety. That hesitation, that internal resistance that we're feeling for getting started, we have to recognize that that is at least the result of anxiety. It's the result of me clearly seeing that this is not going to work. I wouldn't say it like that unless I took inventory of my thoughts and I saw that's exactly what I'm saying. And I'm not saying I'm seeing clearly this is not going to work. I'm asking a question that demands a negative answer. I'm the question that I'm asking when I have anxiety. This is a surefire indicator you have anxiety. When you're asking the question, what if it doesn't work? What if it doesn't work is a question that shows you that you have anxiety. Because if you ask, what if it doesn't work? What is your mind going to show you? It's going to show you all the things that happen if it doesn't work. What if you learn to ask yourself a better question? What if you learn to ask yourself a question that builds anticipation, which is the opposite of anxiety? And you said, man, how awesome is this going to be when it works? Instead of what if it doesn't work? Like literally just that question can change the game. So here's what you have to do. Oh, I told you what anxiety is. Let me tell you what the opposite is. The opposite is anticipation. What's anticipation? Anticipation is the energy I get when the outcome I expect is desirable to me. Let me say it again. Anticipation is the energy I get when the outcome I expect is desirable to me. It's like when you knew what you were getting for Christmas, you couldn't sleep on Christmas Eve. Why? Because your expectation of the outcomes of the next day energized you so much that you couldn't sleep. You ever get a good idea before you go to bed? Isn't that like the worst thing ever? Right? You can't sleep. Right? You're up all night because you got an idea right before you're going to sleep. And now your brain's just like, your brain's racing. Okay. So if that's the case, if anxiety robs you of energy and anticipation fuels you with energy, the thing that I've got to learn how to do is I must learn to replace the thought that causes the anxious apprehension of the outcome I don't desire. Anxious. I'm worried. Apprehension. I stop. Like when we're concerned about something, even if we proceed how? With caution. Right? So apprehension, what does apprehension mean? It means stop. If there's a criminal on the loose and they say, we've apprehended him, what does that mean? We stopped him. Right? So replacing the anxious apprehension of the outcome I don't desire with the joyful anticipation of the outcome I do desire. And I have to do that in real time. It's easy for me to say I'm going to do it when the anxiety is not present. It requires much more intention and discipline to do it when the anxiety is there. Am I tracking? Okay, want to make sure I ain't speaking in code now. But clearly you are just letting it marinate and you're letting it settle in. Okay, cool. I just want to make sure I didn't leave anybody. So I think about so many things that I did that made absolutely no sense whatsoever. And I said, well, I'm going to do this. And it's kind of like accomplishment is kind of like in itself a transformation. And what are the stages of transformation? Awareness, intention, decision, discipline, recognition, celebration. Those are the stages of transformation. Well, accomplishment is the same thing. Now watch what happens. I decided, I got invited to speak at a conference. I was broke. Let me see, what year was this? 2001. I was broke as a joke and ready to choke. I got invited to speak at a conference in Birmingham, Alabama. And I was allowed to make an offer. but I didn't have a duplicator. I didn't have a way to make tapes. We sold tapes back then, like cassette tapes. Y'all remember cassette tapes? Those things Abraham Lincoln used to listen to. Okay, so so we used to sell our programs on cassette tapes, right? And so there was a cassette duplication company in Jacksonville, Florida that I used, because I used to live in Jacksonville, but now I lived in Pennsylvania, so I didn't have anybody to make my tapes. So I placed an order for this company in Jacksonville to make my tapes. It was a $1,500 order. $1,500 for me back then was a lot of, back in 2001 was a lot of money. And so I didn't have enough money for a plane ticket to fly to Jacksonville and then fly to Birmingham. So I left Thursday. They didn't let me know they wanted me to speak until Thursday. And I was supposed to speak on Saturday. So I left Thursday, and now I got to go to Jacksonville and pick up these tapes. Right? And so I drive to Jacksonville from Pennsylvania. I leave Thursday afternoon. I drive all night. I take a nap, like at a rest area or something, for a couple of hours. Then I get to Jacksonville. I go pick up my tapes, and they've been doing business with me for years, so they would let me pay them later. Right? So then I drove 9 hours that day to Birmingham, Alabama, to get to Birmingham that night. And then I was supposed to speak Saturday morning. Well, my coach was there. He was speaking also. And I showed him my order form that I was going to use. He said, well, I wouldn't do it that way. I'd do it this way. But you can do it however you want to. I said, I want to do it the way you do it. I ain't the sharpest knife in the drawer, but I ain't, right? So, cool. So I had already printed like 600 order forms. I threw them all in the trash. Went back to Kinko's before it was FedEx office. Printed 600 more, because I'm going to speak to 700 people, right? I'm going to do exactly what Jerry told me to do. So then I ended up not speaking. I was like, oh, it's going to be later. Then finally, the next to the last person on Sunday morning before the conference ends, most of the people have already gone home, right? I'm speaking to about 135 people. And so I do my offer. And before I did it, I called my family. I called my wife, I called my brothers, I called my mom, I called everybody who knew me. Pray for me. I'm about to do this thing Jerry told me to do, and I don't know if it's going to work. I wasn't nervous. I was scared. Right? And I got up and I did my offer, and I did everything Jerry told me to do, exactly how he told me to do it. There was a lady on the front row, right about where you are, Breezy. Lady on the front row. I got down to the end of the offer. It was $147. She said, what? What? She jumped up out of her chair and ran to the back. And people started following her. It was almost everything that I could do. It took like every ounce of my constitution to keep from breaking out into hysterical laughter. It was the funniest thing I'd ever seen. And then when the dust settled, I did $5,900 in sales in 45 minutes. That's the most money in the shortest amount of time I had ever made in my life. I was like, that was crazy. That was crazy. Anyway, that whole thing didn't make sense, but it worked. And then somebody booked me from that event to speak at their event 2 weeks later, and somebody booked me a month later to speak at their event. And then I did $6,600 at the one in Cleveland, $8,800 at the one in Baltimore. I'm like, this is crazy. None of that would have happened if I would have waited until I was ready to do it. Right? It didn't make any sense. I remember when I used to be in multi-level marketing, and we bought these third-party validation newspapers. They were called Health News because I sold nutritional supplements, Health News. And they had Health News on antioxidants, grapeseed extract, blah, 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 right? And oligomeric proanthocyanidins and all this other stuff, right? And I'm like learning all the technical gobbledygook, and I would buy 100 papers for $50. So that people could see this health newspaper says that this stuff that I'm selling works, right? It was a third-party validation piece. I was buying 100 newspapers for $50. And I was telling other people in my team to buy 100 newspapers for $50. I'm like, I'm going to make a newspaper. Now, you got to understand, I know nothing about graphic design. I know nothing about newspaper. I couldn't pass a 9th grade grammar test to save my grandmother. But I'm going to start a newspaper. So what do? Well, I know newspapers are printed. So I started where I knew to start. I picked up my phone. I started calling printing companies. This is, anyway, when I lived in Jacksonville, I started calling printing companies. I said, hey, I want to get a newspaper printed. Do you guys print newspapers? No. Do you guys print newspapers? No. Do you guys print newspapers? No. Do you guys print newspapers? Guy says, no, we don't print newspapers. In order to print newspapers, you need a printing company that has a web press. Like Spider-Man spins a web press. I'm like, what's a web press? I knew nothing. I wasn't ill prepared. I was completely unprepared with the exception of one thing. I had made a decision. I'm going to start a newspaper. Because if this other company is selling all these newspapers to me and thousands of other people, I can write a newspaper and sell thousands of them. I know I can do that. So I just started figuring out the pieces. So I said, do you have a web press? He said, no, but there's a company in Jacksonville that has a web press. It's so-and-so printing. I don't remember the name of them, but I called them. Hey, I heard you guys have a web press. You can print newspapers. Yeah. If I want to do a 4-page kind of newspaper, and I can bring it to you and show you what it's called. I mean, what it looks like, if you want me to, and then you can tell me whether y'all print them. Okay, come tomorrow. Okay, cool. Went the next day. I showed them the newspaper. They said, oh, that's just a 4-page tabloid. That's easy. It's easy for you. Cool. So if I design this and I get it to you, you'll print it for me. How much will you charge me? Are you ready for this? 1.9 cents a piece. 1.9 cents, which means if I want to get 100 printed, it would cost me $19. If I want to get 1,000 printed, it cost me $190. If I want to get 10,000 printed, it only cost me $1,900 to print 10,000 papers that I can sell for 50 cents a piece. Child, say less, do more. Okay, so I said, okay, cool. So I go home and I open up Microsoft Word. And it doesn't make sense because they don't have the dimensions of this paper. So I called the printing company. I said, hey, I'm using Microsoft Word and to write my newspaper articles, but it doesn't seem to work. They said, no, you need to either use Quark Express or you need to use Adobe Illustrator. Well, I'm like, I have Adobe Illustrator. I'll use Adobe Illustrator. Thank you. So I open up Adobe Illustrator because I think Adobe Illustrator is going to work like Microsoft Word. But it's nothing like Microsoft Word. Like, I literally couldn't figure out how to put a word on the page. So guess what I did? I called the printing company. I said, I don't have Quark Express, but I have Adobe Illustrator. Do you have somebody there who can show me how it works? Sure, come in tomorrow. Went in the next day, lady spent like 3 hours showing me how Adobe Illustrator worked. So I went back home, I designed my newspaper. I'm like, okay, so here's what I need. I need a headliner. That year, Mark Victor Hansen and Robert G. Allen came out with the book, The 1 Minute Millionaire. So I called their office and I said, my name is Myron Golden. I am the editor-in-chief of the Financial Freedom News. If Bob and Mark will let me do an interview with them, I will give them an advertorial. I didn't call it an advertorial because I didn't know that's what it's called, but I'll do a story about their book in my paper that we sell as a third-party validation piece to network marketing companies, and thousands and tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people will hear about their book. Okay, well, we'll set you up with a call with Mark and Bob. They sent me a press kit with a signed book, a signed photograph of Mark Victor Hansen and Robert G. Allen, and then booked. And so, and back, remember when we used to have phones that had cords that were connected to the wall? Well, I had this device because I did conference calls. I had this device where I could record phone calls that was plugged into my phone. So I had set up a time for them to call. We called, we got on the call. I interviewed them and I wrote the article based on the interview. Now, I did the article based on Robert G. Allen because he was also a person who did network marketing from time to time, and everybody knew him from nothing down, multiple streams of income, and now the 1 Minute Millionaire. And so the first page was about Robert Allen. Is what I'm saying making sense? And what Robert Allen says about network marketing, because I was asking him questions about network marketing, like he gave me one of the best quotes ever. He said, one of the things I like about network marketing is residual income. He said, residual income is way better than linear income because residual income means every dollar you make, it has thousands and thousands of other little dollars following it. He said, but the only thing following linear income is another day of hard work, right? Wasn't that a great quote? And so I did this Robert Allen story on page 1. Page 2, I talked about network marketing and what it was, and then did a little advertorial for the 1 Minute Millionaire. And then on the next page, I talked about a particular network marketing company that I was doing, because I did this paper for many different network marketing companies. I did for the network marketing company. And then on the back page, I featured the leaders of that company so they would promote the newspaper to the people in their team. Right? Now, I didn't know anything about making a newspaper, but I knew how to make that newspaper sell once I got it made. I literally sold hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of those newspapers. And if somebody bought one newspaper, it was $1. But if they bought 100, it was $50. No, if they bought 100, it was $50. If they bought 1,000, it was $350. So they only paid 35 cents a piece. And if they bought 10,000 or more, they paid 25 cents a piece. Oh, that's good for me. I only paid 1.9 cents a piece. I started a newspaper, sold hundreds and hundreds of thousands of newspapers, even though when I started, I wasn't ready. You say, Myron, what are you saying? I'm saying there are some things, some lessons you can only learn while you're in the activity of doing the thing. You want to get it all mapped out so you know what all the steps are going to be before you get started. And life doesn't work like that. I like what Francesco said before we got started. Beginning is winning. I got started on I published a newspaper, y'all. Okay, y'all ain't happy. Y'all, that wasn't good enough for y'all. Okay. I'm at my friend's house. He's the music minister at my brother's church. And he can sing and he can create music. He literally created some of the music on some Destiny Child's albums. The dude is like he's a musical savant. His name's Bernie Stevenson. So I'm at Bernie's house. We're just hanging out, chopping it up. He's like, oh, Myron, I like that thing you just said. He said, that has rhythm. I'm like, it's just words, bro. Oh, man, all words have rhythm. Isn't that what a musician would say? Right? And they says, you want me to play what I heard when you said that? I said, yeah. He goes, there's a little organ he's got at his house. He said, when you said I heard I was like, you heard that when I said that. I said, that's wild. He said, man, music is easy for me. Words are hard for me. I said, well, words are easy for me. Music is hard for me. And as soon as I said that, the next thing that came out of my mouth is, we should do a project together. I said, why don't we produce an album? I'll write the words, you make the music. So I wrote the words. That night, I wrote a song. I don't remember which one I wrote first, but I think it was Free in the Land of the Free. And so I wrote the song. I sent it to him. I said, I want this to have a kind of a Yankee Doodle sound. And so it starts out with some drums. And like I sent him that. The next morning, he sent me back a song. It wasn't mastered, but it sounded good. Like, that's crazy. The next day, I wrote 2 more songs, sent them to him. So, The Challenge to Succeed, Standing on the Shoulder of Giants. Sent them to him. Next, he sends them back. We got 8 songs. I got down to 7 songs. I was exhausted. So I could call my brother Mark. I'm like, Mark, you're good with words, bro. You're like, write a song. I want a song called The Challenge to Succeed. No, In It to Win It. In It to Win It. So Mark writes In It to Win It, send it to Bernie. So now we got 8 songs. So then we got all the songs are done. Now we got to get mastered. We got to go to a studio and have an engineer make sure that all of the sounds are at the right volume and the right timing and all this other stuff. That takes a long time. And so he's got all these musical tracks with all these different vocal tracks and all these different instrumental tracks. And I'm like, And so I'm going because I just want to see the process. I didn't realize they're night owls. I'm not a night owl. I'm a morning glory. 3:00 in the morning, I'm over there asleep on the floor in the studio while they're mastering stuff. From the time Bernie and I had that original conversation to the time we have duplicated CDs for sale, and people were buying them. You know how long it took? What'd you guess? 14 days. Why? Because I got started on it. Oh, by the way, I've sold thousands and thousands and thousands of those CDs. Because I'd sell them at my conferences. Oh, we'll sell millions. Bernie, you about to get rich, bro. If you're watching this. We're going to sell millions of them. You know what I'm going to do? I thought of the perfect release of my album to my YouTube audience. We sold that, by the way, we sold those 8 songs for $20 a piece. I mean, for $20 per album. Oh, that's way better than Sharp Stick and I. And guess what? We didn't have any production companies. We didn't have any record label we had to give any of them to. Didn't have to perform. I'm gonna tell you something. What did we do? We started. I can tell you story after story after story after story after story after story that I just started something and I figured it out as I went along. I'm telling you, the start stops most people. Don't let the start stop you. So, our affinity for what other people's opinions. But what will people think if I fail? What will people say? Who cares? Who cares what they say? They're going to say something anyway. Like, you don't have to fail. You can succeed. They're going to say something. Right? So, that's why people don't start. Why would you be better off getting started before you're ready? Here's why. It will help you develop a mental model. Like, my mental model is very different from most people's mental model. I don't have to know everything before I do something. People are like, as soon as I know everything, I will do something. I'm like, I will do something so I can learn everything. And the reality is, you don't really get to know anything until you do something. Action is a great teacher. So it'll help you develop a mental model. It will also help you discover measurable metrics. What does that mean? It means, like, right now, you're just measuring your imagination against your imagination. Everything that you're contemplating while you're getting ready to get ready, the only place it exists is in your head. So you don't even know if it's real or not. But guess what? I started a newspaper and I went home and I started working on Microsoft Word. I wouldn't have had that Microsoft Word. I would not have known that I needed Illustrator if I wouldn't have gotten started. I wouldn't have learned how to use Illustrator if I wouldn't have gotten started. I wouldn't have known what a web press was if I wouldn't have gotten started. Many of the answers that are essential to your success, they are under a stone on the pathway of getting started. I get it. In your mind, getting started is a very dangerous thing. But I promise you, that's the only place it's dangerous. It'll help you discover measurable metrics, and it will help you deploy manageable methods. Everything feels overwhelming before you get started on it. I literally learned the next step by doing the last step. You know what it reminds me of? You know what Bible verse this reminds me of? If any man will do his will, he shall know the doctrine. What does that mean? God said, one of the reasons I'm not revealing my secrets to you is because you're not doing the ones I already revealed. If any man will do his will. You'd think it would say, Pastor Tom, you're pastor, you would think it would say, if any man will know the doctrine, he can do his will. It doesn't say that. If any man will do his will, he will know the doctrine. What does that mean? God's not in the habit of revealing secrets to the people who ignored the last 15 secrets he showed them. It will help you deploy manageable methods. You know what? Inch by inch, it's a cinch. But yard by yard, it's very hard. And see, what you're doing is you want to have the whole thing done before you do any of it. This is why people don't get started. Okay. So how do I start before I'm ready? Man, I want to start before I'm ready, but I'm not ready. So how do I start? It seems like such a conundrum, doesn't it? Doesn't it seem like a crazy conundrum? Okay, here it is. You set your intention to succeed. I'm going to do this thing. Now, my recommendation is don't make it a goal. Don't put a time limit on it. I'm going to do this thing. Now, I don't care how long it takes. I don't care. When I became intentional about my YouTube channel, I was like, we're going to get to 1 million subscribers in 90 days. That, if I would have set that as a goal, I probably would have quit before I got to 1 million subscribers. But I set an intention. And here's my intention. I am going to publish a YouTube video every week for the next 10 years and see if I can get good. I can't control who subscribes. I can control if I get better. I can control if I do it consistently. Is what I'm saying making sense? And so, set your intention to succeed. I'm going to do X, Y, Z. And I'm going to start doing X, Y, Z today. It's always now o'clock for me. What time is it? Now o'clock. You set your intention. Then you make a decision to start. A decision to start and a choice to start are not the same thing. Choose means to pick one. Decide comes from the Latin root de, which means of or from, side, which means to cut. When you decide, you cut yourself off from the possibility of any other thing. I am doing this. A decision is literally a covenant that you make with yourself. Do you know the word covenant means to cut, and the word decide means to cut? But I'm making a covenant with myself. Now, a covenant is a promise on your honor. It's a promise based on love and respect. It is a promise that you stake your life on. If I don't keep my word to you, I want to die the death of mutilated animals. That's what a covenant is. So when you make a decision, when you make a real decision, and most people have very weak decision-making muscles because they don't make many decisions, but they make a lot of choices. When you make a decision, you realize that you would rather die keeping your word to yourself than live and break it. You ever think about the word confidence? What's the root word of confidence? What's the root word? Now that's confide. Confide. What does confide mean? To trust. So when you don't have confidence in yourself, you don't trust yourself. So here's the question. Why don't people trust themselves? Because they've broken their word to themselves so many times in the past, they can't believe a word they say. I don't trust me. I know I don't keep my word to me. Like, you don't understand how badly I wanted to go back to bed when my alarm clock went off at 5 o'clock this morning. Because 2 days ago, I woke up at 4:26 and couldn't go back to sleep. And so I made myself get up at 4:48. And then that night I was exhausted. The next day I was exhausted. Today it's still carrying over. When my alarm clock went off this morning, I was not feeling it. Tomorrow's a rest day. I don't have to hit the bike tomorrow. Tomorrow's Shabbat. I'm not riding that bike tomorrow. I'm going to sleep in. Let my body recover. But Sunday morning, we're going to be on that bike 5 o'clock in the morning. Right. Why? Because I'm not going to allow me to break my word to me. But Myron, you might die on the bike, but I will be on it when I die. Okay, y'all tracking. Set your intention to succeed. Make a decision to start. Set your intention. I'm going to do this. Make your decision and then activate the discipline to stick with it. What is discipline? Discipline is doing what you're supposed to do, when you're supposed to do it, the way you're supposed to do it, and doing it that way every time you do it. Let's become the people who no longer let ourselves off the hook of our intentions and our decisions and our destiny. These are the reasons why I admonish you like I've already admonished myself in the past. Start before you're ready, and you will find yourselves arriving at the destination that you thought was so far in the future, so much earlier, so often. I hope this helps you. Stay blessed by the best, and we'll look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Your first business skill set to develop is sales. How do you develop a sales skill set? Read books on sales, attend seminars on sales, buy coaching on sales, and then make lots of presentations to sell. In this video, I'm going to tell you exactly what you need to do to grow your business and your money bigger than they've either ever been in your entire life. In this video entitled, Just Get Better at Business and Money, or Why Personal Growth is the Key to Professional Growth. If you want your business to get better, then you must get better. If you want to make more money, then you must become more valuable. And by the way, that doesn't mean you think you're more valuable. It means you actually become more valuable to people in the marketplace, not more valuable in your own eyes and by your own estimation. And then if you want to produce bigger results, then you must have a bigger impact. It's so interesting how many people will seek to be impressive, but while they're seeking to be impressive, they fail to be impactful. Whereas if you focus on being impactful, you get both. But if you focus on being impressive, you get neither. There are 3 areas in which you must grow, and I believe that one of the most important things we can learn about personal growth is this. Before I talk about personal growth, one of the most important things we can learn about personal growth is this. There is no there. There is no there. What does that mean? It means, like the Apostle Paul said, I count not myself to have apprehended, but I press toward the mark of the high calling of God in Christ Jesus. Therefore, this one thing I do. There's no there. What does that mean? That means there's no place that when you arrive, you will finally have arrived. There's no destination other than the journey, because the journey itself is the destination, which means that personal growth, to me at least, means that you are in a state of perpetual improvement, perpetual transformation. Like growth implies transformation. Think about it. If you grow, you turn into a bigger, better, stronger, smarter, more impactful, more intelligent version of yourself. To grow implies change. Now, we're talking about transformation. I want to say something about the Trump tariffs that I've not heard anybody talk about, and I think it's very, very important. Like, people want to tell you that it's terrible. Other people want to tell you that it's great. And I'm going to tell you, it depends on what your objective is, right? I think for the objective that President Trump has, I think the tariffs are great because they will reduce the trade deficit, potentially, or they will start a trade war, potentially. Those are the 2 options, right? But his stated objective, I think, speaks to middle-class people, to blue-collar people, because he says, I want to bring manufacturing jobs back to the United States. While I think that is a noble objective to have for people, it is only a noble objective to have for people who intend to stay stuck. What does that mean? It's just like when liberals say we need to raise the minimum wage. We need to make the bottom higher. But see, to me, when you talk about making the bottom higher, hopefully you're not talking about making the bottom higher for me, because that implies to me that you think that I can't reach it. I mean, I can't reach it. Like, I won't ever be able to get past the bottom. So you're going to make the bottom higher, so I'll suffer less in my suffering. So I'll struggle less in my struggle, right? But the reality is, when you bring back manufacturing jobs to the United States of America, you're bringing back low-paying jobs that people who are growing don't want anyway, and people who are not growing aren't going to do a good job. That's just the reality of the situation. Like, fighting for making minimum wage higher is helping people stay stuck. Fighting to bring back, I'm not a politician. I know very little about geopolitics, but I do know people. And I don't want you to make it easier for me. I just don't want you to stand in my way. I would rather that you didn't make it harder for me. But if that's what you feel like you need to do, good luck. So, I think that the whole idea that we need to bring back jobs that the companies now are hiring people in other countries to do for $2 an hour, $5 an hour, $10 an hour, $25 an hour, and say, I'm gonna bring those jobs over here. Well, it's going to cost the businesses that bring those jobs over here way more money than it was costing them to buy it in another country and then ship it here. So if you think about the age, like the industrial age, like China manufactures more than we do. All that means, like, I don't know a better way to say this. All that means is they are 75 years behind us. That's what that means. They manufacture more stuff than we do. They are 75 years behind us economically because they're still in the industrial age. The industrial age for us ended in the 1950s. I hope this is what I'm saying is making sense. And so, yes, if you're planning on staying at the bottom your whole life, yes, I can see why you'd want them to raise the minimum wage. If you plan on being a low-waged manual labor worker your whole life, I can see why you would want them to bring back manufacturing jobs to the United States of America. But the reality is we have so much leverage in this country, so much technology that we can leverage that, like, why would I want to spend 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, like working my fingers to the bone to make less money than I could make every day if I learned some new skills and how to utilize the internet to both manufacture, distribute, and find clients to serve. And then do all my transactions on the internet. Why would I want to do that? Well, because I have no intention of growing. I like what Jim Rohn said a long time ago. He said, it's okay if you say today, I don't know how to use a computer. He said, that's okay. But if you're still saying that 30 days from now, 60 days from now, 6 months from now, maybe we should come get your family and take them to safety. Because it doesn't take that long to learn how to use one. So let's talk about personal growth. What is personal growth? Personal growth is transformation for the purpose of elevation. Transformation for the purpose of elevation. So I'm going to change in a way that makes my life higher. Does that make sense? Are y'all picking up what I'm putting down? And so, what is the process of transformation? So, so there are 6 steps to transformation, to perpetual transformation, which I find fascinating because 6 is the number of man, 1 is the number of unity, 2 is the number of separation or holiness, 3 is the number of God, 4 is the number of the earth, 5 is the number of grace, 6 is the number of man, also the number of falsehood, probably because man believed Satan's falsehood. But 6 is the number of man. Man was created on the 6th day. Okay, so there are 6 steps to transformation. In fact, I'm going to write them on the board because I want to make sure I say them slowly enough that everybody has time to write them down. Because I know I talk fast sometimes. And I don't talk fast because I'm in a hurry. I talk fast because I get excited and I just start talking fast. And so the next thing you know, Myron's all excited. He's all worked up and he's just talking really, really fast. And like, I wish he'd slow down. He wishes he'd slow down. Pray for me. Don't judge me. Okay. So I'm going to go over to the board. Make myself slow down. So 6 steps of transformation. Number one is awareness, which means if I'm going to grow personally, one of the things that I must do is I must become aware of something that I was previously unaware of. It's so amazing. Like, I remember when I first got introduced to financial services and business and selling insurance and investments, the guy that recruited me, I didn't even know I was being recruited. I literally thought I was getting a job, right? The guy that recruited me was making $10,000 a month in 1985, when $10,000 a month was a lot of money. That was more than $10,000 a month back then would buy you more than $100,000 a month will buy you now. Okay, to give you perspective. And this guy, he was just a normal guy. He wasn't dynamic. He wasn't bombastic. He wasn't theatrical. He wasn't a good speaker. He was just a guy who had built a $10,000 a month business. Now, you got to understand, I was 25 years old. I had never met anybody who made $25,000 a month. I literally didn't know that, $10,000 a month. I literally didn't know that $10,000 a month was a sentence, right? Like, that people actually said, like, people, I didn't know that professional athletes or actors made 10,000. Like, 10,000 was more than I made in a year back then, right? So if that gives you any perspective. And so, but I became aware of the fact that 10,000 a month was possible. But I also became aware that not only was it possible, it was doable because I knew someone personally who was doing it. Like, wait, what? $10,000 a month? You can make $10,000 in a month? Oh, I became aware. Now, once you become aware, and maybe it's for you, it's not $10,000 a month, but maybe it's losing weight. Maybe it's whatever your objective is, to get healthier. Maybe it's to lower your blood pressure. Like I was just sharing with folks in my studio this morning, like in the last couple of days, I've lowered my top number by more than 20 points, my bottom number by 10 points in the last couple of days, right? And why? Because I became aware of something that I previously wasn't aware of. Now, what I became aware of was some of my bad habits. And one of my bad habits was I would eat at restaurants most of the time. Like, I would eat restaurant food, even at home. Even if I ate at home, either me or my wife would go to a restaurant and get food and bring it home. Why? Because there's no preparation, there's no cleanup, there's no all the stuff that you got to deal with. So, and now I just decided I'm going to hire a chef who will just make all the food that we want without me having to think about it. See? But I became aware. I became aware that aerobic exercise, which I used to hate, but I now love, right? Why do I love it? Because it's helped me lower my blood pressure by a combined 30 points. Right? In a couple of days, not a couple of weeks, not a couple of months. So I became aware of what it can do for me. So I wake up in the morning and the first thing I do is get on the assault bike and I ride it for 30 minutes straight, get my heart rate above 130 beats a minute constantly, and then get it up above 150 beats a minute a couple of times during that ride. And I'm like, yeah, let's go. That's exactly the sound you're supposed to make till you get in better shape, bruh. Right? Okay. So I became aware. So it begins with awareness. That's the first step. Step number 2 is intention. Awareness and intention. So you set an intention to have this transformation. I'm going to step into my new awareness. I'm going to make the new thing that I became aware of, I'm going to make that my experience in reality. Now, I know people say you can create your own reality, but you can't. But what you can create is you can create your own experience in reality, right? Because you don't get to change reality, but you do get to change your experience. Are y'all tracking? And by the way, words matter, right? And so I become aware of the potential that I have within me or for me. What's potential? The difference between who I am and who I could be. The difference between what I'm doing and what I could do. The difference between what I have and what I could have. That's my potential. The potential is by its very nature a gap. And so my awareness in the gap of what I could be, who I could be, what I could be doing, and what I can have, all of a sudden there's a light shown on it. And I was like, oh, I didn't know I could do that. Right. And then I do it like I was speaking at an event here in Tampa last April, and a new friend of mine was sitting on the front row, and he was sitting beside my daughter, and I was doing my illustration about how your two basic expenses are number one is not knowing how to make $1 million a year, and number two is taxes. And I was talking about how much Americans pay in taxes, 51% in taxes. And then I started thinking about taxes. Then I started lamenting the hundreds of thousands of dollars a quarter I was sending to the U.S. Treasury, right? And this new friend of mine, he leaned over, and he's a billionaire with a B. He leans over to my daughter and he says, "Your dad's a good man. He shouldn't be paying taxes." Like, what does that sentence mean? Right? What does that sentence mean? And then I'm talking a little bit longer. He leans over to her and says, "I'm going to help you, family. You are good people. You're not going to pay taxes anymore." I'm like, okay, that sounds good. I don't know what it means, but at least I became aware of the fact that it exists. I actually became aware of it the first time when Donald Trump was running for president in 2016. And he said, the person interviewing him said, "You made $400 million last year. You didn't pay anything in taxes. How do you explain that?" He said, "Because I'm smart." Right. And I said, I want to be that smart. That was a lot of people were mad. I wasn't mad. I was just dumbfounded. Like, how do you do that? Well, guess what? Like, I paid taxes in 2023. Like, a lot. I was getting ready to pay my last tax payment for 2023 in October of 2024. Because if you have a business, to like use your money as long as you can before you hand it over, right? Is what you do, right? Isn't that what happens before you hand it over? What happens is, I was getting ready to pay my previous year's taxes on October 15th. That check was $534,000. That's the balance that I had left after already paying them hundreds of thousands of dollars. I had a $534,000 bill left. I was getting ready to write the check. My tax strategist called me and said, "Don't write that check." He had been working on my taxes. He and my CPA had been working on my taxes for a couple of months. "Don't write that check. I think I might be able to get you a refund." A what? A refund. I had not gotten a tax refund since 1995. And now you're talking to me about getting a refund? I don't even know. I'm not even sure I remember that word means. And then he told me how much it was, and it was multiple six figures. I'll just say that. I'm like, what are you talking about, bro? Right, but that's what I said. How? Right? Okay, we're going. So, and I know y'all want to know how, but I have to be theatrical and I have to do my thing my way. So y'all just gonna have to wait. We're gonna have to wait on it, brother. Okay, so I said, okay, I'm not going to write the check. But I'll be honest with you, I wasn't fully, like, you know how when you first start flying and you're not comfortable, you don't put all your weight down? I wasn't putting all my weight down on "don't write that check." I certainly wasn't putting all my weight down on "you might get a refund." I believed him because he's not a liar, but it didn't make sense to me because I had never experienced it. And he said, in 6 weeks, this money will be in your account. And 6 weeks went by and the money was not in my account. And then 6 weeks and 1 day, still no money. 6 weeks, 2 days, no money. 7 weeks, no money. About 7 weeks and 2 days in, bing, the money hits my account. But the amount was not what he told me it was. It was literally like hundreds of thousands of dollars more. Yeah. I'm like, what just happened? Well, what happened was we got the benefits of all the real estate that we already own. Cost segregation, bonus depreciation, accelerated depreciation, all this stuff, plus all our regular business expenses. And so we literally got back all the money that we paid in taxes for 2023. And I was in the process of buying some more real estate last year. He said, if you buy this property, I'll be able to get all the money you paid this year back again. And then if you just keep accumulating real estate, you'll never have to pay taxes again.
Praise the Lord.
Yes, hallelujah. So I became aware, I set my intention, and then 3 is you have to make a decision. Now, a decision is not the same as a choice. You can tell them they can come in. It's fine. Okay, cool. So a decision is not the same as a choice. A decision comes from the Latin root. By the way, did you notice this word spells aid, right? It'll aid you in your transformation. These letters spell aid. Okay, so decide comes from the Latin root de, which means of or from. And then side, which means to cut. So when you decide something, you cut yourself off from any other possibility. So a decision is not a choice. A decision is actually a covenant that you make with yourself, where you'd rather die and keep your word to yourself than live and break it. See, most people that you will meet in your whole life have very, very weak and atrophied decision-making muscles. They make a lot of choices, but almost no decisions. When you decide, it's not like, I'm going to try. A try is a lie. You're going to try, but I'm lying. I'm going to try. I'm going to try. I'm going to try. Like, the word try literally just, it's like fingernails on a chalkboard to me. What are you trying to do? I'm not trying to do anything. I'm either doing it or I'm not doing it. So you make a decision. You don't make a choice, you make a decision. Once you make that decision, now we're moving and grooving. It requires, number 4 is discipline. What's discipline? Discipline is, and by the way, even before I tell you about discipline, I'm going to give you Exhibit 3:1. Okay. And that is, disruption always follows intention. So when you set a new intention, the first thing that's going to show up is a disruption. What does that mean? That means when I make a decision to do something good, the first thing that shows up is something hard, something difficult, something bad. When I make a real decision, why? Because it's been sent to either, depends on who we receive it from, it's been sent to strengthen us, or it's been sent to weaken us. What does that mean? That means that God ordained that the enemy attempt to weaken you with what he intends to strengthen you. What does that mean? Okay. So God gives us promises. These promises he puts in front of us. He didn't put them off to the side. He didn't put them up here. If you do this, you can expect this. So guess what the enemy does? The enemy comes and he says, well, I'm going to bring you, like to promise? Oh, I'm going to show you a promise, Thomas. Sorry. I'll show you a promise. And he comes and brings a problem. He didn't put the problem over here, didn't put it up here, didn't put it back here behind. He says, wow. We start freaking out, right? And the enemy puts the promise here to distract us from the promise, because he wants us to focus on the problem as if the promise wasn't there. So why would God ordain that the enemy bring us a problem and put it here? Because God wants to show us that we can learn. What's the word I just used? We can learn to look through the problem. We don't even need the problem to move. We can learn to look through the problem and see the promise, and learn to focus on the promise as if the problem weren't there. It changed the game. Disruption always follows intention. It always has, it always will. It's not going to, like that. This principle is not going to stop happening because you don't like it. Hey, it's so hard. Deal with it, baby. Okay. So you have to have discipline because disruption always follows intention. Okay. Then after disruption, after you make a decision, this is all the introduction, by the way. No, I'm serious. So after discipline, the next thing you need, number 5, is recognition. Take time to notice your progress. Take time to acknowledge your progress. How do I know this is a principle for high achievement? Because God did it in Genesis chapter 1. And God said, and it was so. And God saw that it was good. And then God said again, and what happened? It was so. And then what happened? God saw that it was good. See, one of the biggest problems people have is they don't take inventory of their own wins, and they don't recognize their wins. Learn to recognize the wins that you have. We recognize like the difficulties, the challenges, the battles, but then we ignore the wins. Oh, well, that was only this, and then we minimize it. Don't minimize it, recognize it. And then lastly, in transformation, 4 comes right after 5, Myron. Okay. Can you spell, bro? Okay. Okay. is celebration. Learn to celebrate your wins. It'll make you desire to have them. I remember back in the days when me and my wife, bless her heart, when we were pitiful poor. You say, Myron, what's pitiful poor? That's when you're so poor, the poor people feel sorry for you. And so what I did back in those days is I would buy old raggedy cars and I'd put a transmission in it or do some body work on it or put an engine in it or fix something that was wrong with it. And then I'd put it in the paper and sell it for a few $100s more than I bought it for. And then every time we sold a car, we'd go celebrate. We'd go shopping at AmVets or Goodwill. That's how we celebrated. Well, one of these trips where we went, well, that wasn't even for that. That was a different celebration. One time when I went to Goodwill, because I used to do a lot of shopping at Goodwill. I'm just keeping it real, because a lot of rich people give their stuff to Goodwill and Salvation Army. Like when I'm done with stuff, I give it to Goodwill, Salvation Army, like homeless shelters. Like, I'm happy for them to go make money on it. Anyway, plus, by the way, you get a write-off on it. I don't know if y'all knew that or not. They'll actually give you a receipt for the actual value, and you can write that off. Fast forward. I went to Goodwill one day. I was shopping, bought this old box of Amway tapes. Guess what was in there? Jim Rohn, The Day That Changes Your Life, speaking at an Amway conference. I must have wore that tape out. I mean, I never listened to something so many times in my life, right? And so we celebrated by going shopping. We still do we still do celebrations for big wins that we have. Now, that's those. In fact, I'm gonna leave that there. Those are the 6 steps in transformation. Now, we talked about how to transform, but we didn't talk about what to transform. We talked about how to grow. We didn't talk about what to grow. So let's talk about what to grow. Now, put my glasses back on so I can see what I wrote here. Now that we set the groundwork, let's look at the 3 areas in which we must grow if we are serious, not just curious about changing and growing in our business and finances. Okay. You've heard me talk about them before, but I'm going to go into more detail than I go into most times. Okay. Number 1, you must grow in the area of mindset. Now, when we say mindset, it's a compound word. I think the biggest mistake people make when they think about their mind is they think their mind and their brain are the same thing. Okay? But your mind is way more than your brain. Your mind is in every cell of your body. It's your identity code. It's your mind. I don't know if y'all know this or not, but did you know that your DNA is actually code? It's actually information. Okay. Well, that information is in every cell in your body. And so and we're all programmed differently and uniquely. Some people are really good at singing. Other people are good at musical instruments. Some people can just they never took a lesson. They can just play a piano. I literally saw a 1.5-year-old on Instagram yesterday playing a piano. And it sounded like music. It wasn't noise. They were playing. I'm like, but how do they know? That's their gift. It was given to them. It was programmed into them. Some people are naturally good at athletics. Some people are naturally good at math. And so the thing we have to realize is we can take our talents that we've been given and we can turn them into more by adding skill, which I'm going to talk about next. But my mindset needs to be first and foremost an infinite possibilities mindset. Have you ever taken inventory of your belief systems? Have you? Because the reality is we all believe something. And I heard Tony Robbins say this a long time ago. And it's one of the best things I've ever heard him say. If you'd like to achieve any form of human excellence, find somebody who's excellent in that arena and model three things. What are those three things? You model their belief systems, you model their mental syntax, and you model their physiology. Their belief systems are what they believe about X, Y, and Z. If you want to get really good at something, find somebody who's good at that something and ask them what they believe about that aspect of that thing. Okay, so beliefs. 2 is syntax, is the order in which they fire off messages in your brain. Like I coach salespeople, I coach entrepreneurs. One of the things that I'm fascinated by is they don't understand the syntax of sales and the syntax of closing. They'll do the right thing sometimes, but they'll do them in the wrong order. Why would you do that before you do that? Right? I see salespeople and they reveal the price before they reveal the value. What are you doing? That's like inside out, upside down, and backwards, right? So beliefs. When I'm talking about mindset, I'm talking about your basic foundational belief about how things work and how you should desire and deserve to work in those things. Like, I want to work the way things work. I don't want to attempt to make them work the way I like to do it, right? I'm not. That's a formula for disaster and delusion. And so, but I think the most important aspect of your mindset when it comes to just doing better in business and finance is to have an empowered expectation. Most people's expectation is so disempowered that it's a wonder they can do anything. Most people believe more in their limitations than they do in their leverage. Most people believe more in their inabilities than they do their infinite abilities. And it doesn't make sense to me. And so, well, it does make sense, but most people are living well below their privilege because they refuse to step into who they actually are, because they're so bought into their past struggle story that they won't let go of it. So, mindset, empowered expectation. What does that mean? I always expect everything I work on to work. Now, you want to know something amazing? I always expect everything I work on to work. It always does. I never worked on anything that didn't work. Now, everything I worked on didn't work for me, but the things that didn't work for me worked on me. And so if the thing I was working on didn't get better, it made me better. What? You can't lose with the stuff I use. What? So they're like, I'm fascinated that people have so much resistance to put their hat in the ring when they can only win. You either get a blessing or you get a lesson. Either way, you win. So, mindset, belief systems, and expectations. And then if you'll take the next aspect of mindset, which I think if you combine these three things together, it is a bet you cannot lose, and that is tenacity. Like dogged determination. We were talking about the book Anti-Fragile earlier, right? Oh, I'm going to draw it on the board. I never drawn this on the board before. This is going to be so much fun. So if you think of tenacity is like, well, I'm going to show you. So this is a continuum. So if fragile is over here, most people would think that the opposite of fragile would be strong, right? But the opposite of fragile is not strong. Strong on this continuum would be, strong would be in the middle, right? And the opposite of fragile would be anti-fragile. Now, what does that mean? The opposite of fragile would be anti-fragile. So if you think about fragile means it's easily broken. Strong means difficult to break. But anti-fragile means Things that break strong things with difficulty and fragile things with ease make anti-fragile things stronger. The tagline of the book Anti-Fragile is that's so good. I'm such an artist. Okay. Sorry. And then okay, the same wind that extinguishes a candle feeds a forest fire. So how can I become so tenacious that the same things that break fragile people easily, strong people with difficulty, those same things make me stronger? That's the mindset. Okay, so mindset, skill set. In personal growth, I think personal growth for the purpose of business and finance, skill set that are absolutely required. There are 3 of them. Sales skill sets. You must learn to sell. Yep. Most people don't like sales. So I want you to think about that. Most people don't like sales. I'd say a good 95% of the people hate selling. Now, let me ask you a question. And I want you to say it out loud. What is the alternative? Say it out loudly. What is the alternative to selling? Buying. The opposite of selling is buying. Most people hate to sell. What does that mean? Most people only love to buy. Which means the people who learn to sell and love to sell have a market that will never tap out. Because it's 18 times bigger. 19, it's literally it's 19 times bigger. The market of people who love to buy is 19 times bigger than the market of people who love to sell. You can't lose with the stuff I use. And you have no competition. Even when you get into the arena of people who like to sell, then you got to apply Price's law. 50% of the production of any domain is produced by the square root of that domain. And so if you have 100 salespeople, 10 of them are going to make half of the commissions. The other 90% are not even, they're just also rans. Right? So do you understand how hard it is to lose when your mindset is right and your skill set is right? And your skill set, your first business skill set to develop is sales. How do you develop a sales skill set? Read books on sales, attend seminars on sales, buy coaching on sales, and then make lots of presentations to sell.
Yes.
You will learn more from talking to people about your offer than you will from all the books you're going to read. And you read the books to have something to apply to the people that you talk to. You go to the seminars to have something to apply to the people you talk to. But you don't learn how to sell by listening to somebody talk about sell. You learn how to sell by talking to people. And at the end, they vote with their wallet. And if their vote is no, you didn't learn how to sell. If their vote is yes, you did. A percentage of them, not all of them. All of them are going to buy. Everybody's not your customer, and be okay with that. Learn to kiss people goodbye. Okay, so skill set. Selling is number 1. Marketing is number 2. So selling is uncovering the value of what I have to offer so well that people are happy to exchange the money they have in their pocket for the value I've revealed. So selling is about uncovering value. What's marketing? Marketing is the art and science. The what? Art and science of discovering. Marketing is a discovery process. Marketing is the art and science of discovering and developing more and more of your product, your service, and or your opportunity. That's what marketing is. It's the art and science of discovering and developing more and more of your product, service, or opportunity. So marketing is all about the questions you ask, because questions are the answer. And then, last but most assuredly not least, tool set. Last skill set. There are 3 skills. So skill set number 1 is sales. Skill set number 2 is marketing. Skill set number 3 is branding. Branding. What's a brand? A brand is a name that reminds you of a story. And I would recommend that you build a personal brand before you build a business brand. because your personal brand will make your business brand very easy to scale. So, okay, that's mindset and skill set. Lastly is tool set. So I'm going to talk about 2 tool sets that are absolutely essential. Whether you have a job, whether you own your own business, whether you're a solopreneur, entrepreneur, wealthpreneur, whatever, there are 2 tools that are absolutely essential. Well, I'm going to say 3. I'm going to say 3 tools in my tool set. Number 1, some kind of connected device like a computer. You need to be able to use computing power. Why? Because computers can compute faster than you can, and we can accomplish things faster. Man, anyway, computer. I'm thinking about so many things I'd love to say, but computer. But that computer needs to be connected to number 2, which is the internet. Okay? You need to utilize the internet. Why? Because the internet connects all of us together. The internet can connect you to your suppliers, your distributors, and your customers. Computers connected to the internet. Wow, that's amazing. I have people buy stuff from me from all over the world. Places I've never been, I've made thousands upon thousands upon thousands of dollars from places I've never been and places I'll never go. Why? Because I have a computer connected to the internet that has me talking on it on different platforms, and then places for people to come buy stuff from me. The last one I'm going to talk about, everybody hear me and hear me well. Artificial intelligence, it's not going anywhere. And if you don't learn to use it, you will be going somewhere. And where you end up, you won't like it. You use artificial intelligence to help you do the work you already do in your business, at your job, at your church, in your ministry, in your family. Use artificial intelligence. If you're not using AI, AI is not going to replace you. Someone who's using AI is going to replace you. Don't miss out on that. I think for myself, but I use AI as a research assistant. And it assists me very quickly. So, growth in these three areas will create growth both in your businesses and in your money. Don't miss this train. Why? Because personal growth is the key to professional growth. Just get better at business and money. Thanks for watching. I appreciate y'all being here, and we'll see you on the next video.